Hey, good day to you all, and welcome to another version of Weather Academy. I'm meteorologist Tom DeVecchio. And the weather that we had from over the weekend, we had the snow and the cold winds. And it got me thinking, it might be that time of year to chat a little bit about winter weather safety and some of the things that you want to take care of. Now, the way the forecast is looking this week, the last thing you might think of is, wow, we're going to get really cold. We are not. After the cold hit of Sunday and Monday, now we are heading into some warmer weather. So you may not think too much about some of those winter weather safety rules, but the cold is coming and the snow is coming. And I want to focus more on the cold. Now, most of you know that when you want to stay warm, when you're going outside, you want to dress in layers. And the reason you dress in layers is because air is a great insulator of heat. So when you dress in layers, like even here, I've got a shirt on, I've got my suit on, and if I really wanted to get warmer, I'd put a coat over me as well. So I'd have 3 layers of clothing. And what happens is air gets trapped in between these layers, and the air actually helps slow the escape of heat because air is not a good conductor of heat. Which you think would work better if you wore a metal shirt and a metal suit, or if you wore the fabric like I have? Well, you want to wear the fabric because if you wore metal, is a very good conductor of heat, so it would take heat away from your body much faster. The other thing is wet clothing takes heat away faster than dry clothing. That's why we always tell you, make sure that you wear dry clothing. If you're outside and you're pushing around the snow, you're sledding, you're skiing, and your gloves get wet and your feet start to get wet, once water gets on the fabric, water is is a better conductor of heat away from your body than air. And therefore, you do get colder much more quickly. So that's why we tell you, dress in layers and make sure that you have dry gloves, dry clothing. If they get wet, get inside, get some dry, especially gloves. Gloves, obviously, because that's where you probably touch the snow the most often. And if your gloves get wet, go in, get a dry pair, and put the old ones next, get them dry next to the radiator, the fireplace, and then go back outside and enjoy. So there are 2 things in particular that are of concern here when it comes to cold. One is what we call hypothermia, and the other is frostbite. For those, especially for kids, that along with slips and falls on the ice are one of the primary reasons that kids go to the hospital during the winter months, especially when they're outside playing. Now, when it comes to slipping and falling, the main thing to do is know your surroundings. If you go outside and you know it's cold, make sure that first of all, it's not good to run in the snow, period. But it's particularly dangerous if you're running on roadways, sidewalks, and driveways. Oftentimes, those can be plowed, and when you plow, a lot of times you actually melt the snow and put a thin layer of water, and if that water freezes into ice and then gets covered with snow, and you go running outside, you step on that snow, and boom, next thing you know, you're falling and tumbling. So never, especially when you first go outside, never run outside. Go out slowly. Brush the snow, hold on to the side of the house and maybe swipe the snow a little bit until you reach the ground and actually reach the ground or the sidewalk, and make sure that it's safe to walk on. If there's ice, obviously take care. So just keep aware of the conditions when you're outside, because slipping and falling, you don't want to go to the hospital. You really don't. So we want to keep you healthy there. So know your surroundings and be careful. Hypothermia is when your body temperature gets to a point where it becomes dangerous. Now, our bodies function well at 98.6 on average. So if it starts falling into the mid or low 90s, that's not good. So hypothermia is when your body gets too cold, as opposed to hyperthermia, when your body overheats. And we worry more about that, of course, during the summer months. So the way you keep warm, again, make sure you dress in layers. But what are some of the warning signs that your body is starting to get cold and that you may want to think about going inside and getting warmed up? Well, the first thing is shivering. The reason you shiver is that your body, that's the first sign that your body's saying, hey, I'm getting cold. And what's happening, your muscles are vibrating back and forth. What they're doing is literally trying to generate heat so that you can stay warm. So when you start shivering, that means that you either don't have enough clothing on, or you've been outside too long, or you don't have enough layers, I should say, of clothing. So shivering is sign number one. If you start shivering, you need to get inside, warm up, put an extra layer of clothing if you have to, or put on a warmer coat. Then you'll hopefully be warm enough so when you go outside again, you will stop shivering. Shivering is the first sign that you are getting cold. And that's why we tell you, once you get wet, once your coat gets wet, your gloves get wet, and the shivering can start coming in, get inside, get dry clothing, get warm clothing, and this way you can keep safe. And don't forget your head. Okay, make sure you put a hat on your head, a scarf around your neck, especially if you're going to play outside for a while. It's one thing if you're just going with your mom to the grocery store and you're going to be out in the parking lot for maybe a minute or two. You don't have to dress in all these layers, just enough to get you in. But if you're going out to play, if you're at the bus stop waiting for the bus, if you're outside, more than 15 to 20 minutes, you'll probably want to make sure that you are dressed warmly. And again, if you start shivering, you need to get warmer clothing, get inside, get warmed up. Now, the other situation that we talked about is frostbite. Frostbite is when the cells on your skin literally freeze. Your cells are made primarily, like your body is made primarily of water. And if they start to freeze, that's not good. That means the cells cannot work properly. So what are some of the signs that your body, your skin is starting to get cold and maybe starting to get into the range you should start doing something? Well, let's say you go outside and you don't wear a glove. Okay, it's cold, you're playing outside, and let's just use your hand as an example. Okay, the reason your hand stays warm is because the blood is circulating around through all of the through all of your fingertips and through your hand, and it keeps it warm. And the air is surrounding your hand. Again, is not a good conductor of heat. So when you first go outside, you're usually okay at first. Your hand feels cold, but you are losing heat through your skin. Now, eventually, especially if the temperature is 20, 30 degrees, your hand's saying, hey, tells the brain, hey, I'm starting to get cold here. I'm starting to lose too much heat. So what happens is the blood flows faster, your heart beats a little faster and starts to put more blood in there to try to replenish that heat. So your hand starts to get red. So the first warning sign that your skin is getting too cold is red on your fingers, red on your nose, on your ears. They start to get red. That means, again, that your body's saying, your body's compensating for the loss of heat by pumping more into it. Now, if you still don't do anything, what happens is eventually, the body's like, gee, I can't keep this warm. And the body wants to start taking care of the vital tissues inside your hand, toward the middle of your hand. So what it does is it takes the blood away from the fingertips and starts circulating it on the inside of your hand. So then your hand starts to get pale or get white because the blood is starting to pull away. And what also happens, because your nerve endings need that blood, your hand starts to get numb because there's less blood flow through your fingertips. So warning sign number 2, your hand starts to get lighter, paler, and you start to get numb. You need to act now. I mean, once you feel numbness in your, what we call the extremities, your fingertips, your nose, your ears, your feet, your toes, you need to get inside, because your body now has basically given up on trying to warm up those extremities so that they can keep the more vital organs warm, like your heart and your liver and everything in your body. So you need to get inside and get warm. That's what you need to do. Again, it can happen faster if your gloves are wet and you have wet clothing on. But once numbness comes in, you really need to get inside. And when you do, okay, when you warm up your hands, you don't want to put them right on a radiator or run them under hot water. That's not good. You could actually burn yourself. You want to put under very lukewarm water. You know, maybe if you have a register, put your hands not on the register, but keep it away and let them warm gradually. Maybe even getting a warm blanket around your hands or around the extremities. Let them warm up, okay? And a lot of times as the numbness goes away, you may feel a tingly feeling, and there might even be a little bit of pain to it. That's your body punishing you for keeping it out too long. Now, if you don't go in, if you stay outside, you know, even past the numbness, then you could get the beginnings of frostbite. And normally on your fingertips, the pale starts to turn blue. That's the first sign that you are getting, that your cells are starting to freeze up. Once you get to this stage, you're going to have to go to the doctor's office or have to go to the hospital, to get it looked at and see if anything has to be done to it. And you don't want to get to that stage. So make sure once you feel the numbness, once it goes white or pale on your skin, you need to get inside so that you can warm things up. And again, warm it gradually because once you get to the frostbite stage, you'll need to go to the doctor's office. And we don't want that to happen, okay? We don't want that to happen. In severe cases, once your fingers get black, that usually means that part of the finger is basically dead. Now that is in extreme cases when you're outside for very long periods of time in the cold. Now, if you are caught outside and you can't get inside right away, one of the things that you can do, this is only in an emergency situation, especially with your fingers, okay? You can put it underneath your armpit, okay? Your armpit's one of the warmer parts of your body. That can help at least keep it warm. It may look weird, okay, but at least you can keep your hands warm. Again, if you're outside, you can't get inside right away. That's one where you can keep at least your hands warm, but you really need to get inside once you feel the numbness going. So again, make sure you have dry clothing and proper layers to keep you from hypothermia, and make sure that you, again, properly dress as well to keep you from getting frostbite. And finally, check outside, check your surroundings, check the ground, see that if it's icy, you want to take special care if you're walking to keep you from getting slips and falls. So those are some of the winter weather safety rules as we get into the heart of the wintertime season. It's not too far off. And later this month, we're going to have our winter weather show. Looking forward to that. Hopefully you can watch that. We don't have a set date just yet, but when we do, we will certainly let you know. That is the Weather Academy for this week. Take care of yourselves. Enjoy your day.